www.libertarianparty.ru.
Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? Does the free market make a man or can a man make the market free? Tonight, losing Steve Jobs and losing the free market. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, died last night at age 56 after a long and public battle with cancer. Steve Jobs created the computer company Apple out of garbage he accumulated in his garage in the 1970s. Along with Steve Wozniak and others, Steve Jobs engineered and marketed the Apple II, the first commercially successful line of personal computers, then a nascent industry. Over the course of the next 35 years, Apple would change the shape of personal computing. In that time, Steve Jobs would be fired as Apple's CEO, humiliated by the people he had hired, and then start another computer company. Apple eventually bought Steve's new computer company, and in 1996, he returned to the helm of the company he had founded. Steve Jobs' second stint at Apple would return the company to profitability and bring personal computing devices like the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad into the pantheon of pop culture and into everyday business use. The iPod was not the first portable music player. The iPhone was not the first mobile phone. And the iPad was not the first tablet to make it to market. But they were the first to be known and used universally. All of these devices appeared in one form or another in markets around the world, and at least theoretically on shows like Star Trek nearly 50 years ago. But Apple's devices were made of the dreams of our imaginations, and they were created in the real world, plucked out of our imaginations because of Steve Jobs. Steve did not do this alone. He needed engineers like Steve Wozniak to develop the first Apple computer, and investors like Mike Markula to finance the first Apple computer. And they all needed a free market to create the devices that are now nearly ubiquitous in our society. Steve needed the voluntary exchange of goods and services and an unimpeded and open market in ideas to get Apple off the ground, to get the dreams of my generation's youth out of their imaginations and into the real world. Would we have iPods, iPhones, and iPads without Steve Jobs? We probably would, but only in an environment of freedom. Humanity's every technological advance can be attributed to the presence of free markets, to the invisible hand that bends the long arc of history toward progress, to the laws of supply and demand, to geniuses finding needs and then filling them. What is Steve Jobs' place in the modern history of technology? He will be seen as a founding father, and rightfully so. Steve's determined effort, hard work, and entrepreneurial perseverance moved the technological ball forward in ways that have enhanced our lives on Earth, in ways that few humans in history have ever done. But the forces of the free market were perhaps just as important as Steve's creativity. There could be a million Steve Jobs in the world, but if it were ruled by a faceless bureaucracy centrally planning all human action, it would be for naught. In a centrally planned society, Steve Jobs could not turn garage litter into computing gold. In fact, what happens in centrally planned societies is that the genius of people like Steve Jobs is turned into litter. You don't get a company like Apple in a centrally planned society. You get a company like Solyndra, which burned through $500 million of your tax dollars and has nothing to show for it but enriched political donors and more government debt. In his youth, Steve Jobs, like his colleagues, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, were turning garage garbage into the cutting edge of personal computing and entertainment.
That list is monthly newspaper funded and published by Russian Libertarian Party since November 2010.
Connect with the body.